There's a word that never quite fits Virgo, a word she's heard about other signs, about other people, but rarely about herself. That word is powerful. And the most curious thing is that it wasn't the world that took that word away from Virgin. It was the Virgin herself. Not on purpose, not out of weakness, but because Virgo has a unique ability to see with an almost cruel clarity everything that can still be improved, in everything around them and in themselves. And when the Zodiac's most precise gaze turns inward, what happens is predictable. Nothing seems good enough. Nothing seems up to par. But here's what this video will do to you. It will show you that the same mechanism that prevents you from seeing yourself as powerful is exactly the mechanism that makes you the most powerful person in the room. That the wound and the gift have the same address. That what you've always called a flaw has a different name when you understand where it comes from. Virgo is not the sign of perfectionism. It never has been. Virgo is the sign of perception. And there's a difference between the two things that will change how you see yourself from now on. And here's the first disturbing thing. Most people who live with Virgo, and that includes Virgo herself, interpret this hunger as a problem, as excess, as rigidity, as anxiety, as an inability to relax. But what is called rigidity in Virgo is in fact precision. There is a devastating difference between the two, and Virgo rarely gets the credit for it. Imagine a surgeon in the middle of an operation. He checks the surgical field twice. He verifies the instruments. He asks again about the dosage. Does anyone call that anxiety? No. They call it method. They call it responsibility. They call it competence. The same behavior in another context receives another name. And Virgo has spent her entire life being judged by the wrong name. There's a machine running inside you all the time. It's not a metaphor, it's almost literal. A processing system that never goes into standby mode, that keeps running even when you try to rest, that analyzes old conversations at 3 in the morning, not because you're neurotic, but because there's still an unresolved variable in that equation. And unresolved variables bother Virgos in a way that no other sign can truly understand. This is not a design flaw, it's the design itself. You were built to process what others ignore, to notice what others don't see, to sense misalignment before it appears, to identify the error before it happens. You know that moment when you enter a room and something isn't right, but you can't quite put your finger on it, and everyone around you seems completely comfortable. That's not paranoia. That's fine-tuning. It's your system operating exactly as it was designed to operate. The structural engineer walks across a bridge and senses, before any calculations, that something is wrong. He can't explain it yet, but the discomfort is real, and it's accurate. It's not imagination. It's experience so profound, it's become instinct. In Virgo, analysis operates at that same level, so ingrained it seems like intuition, so precise it seems supernatural. There's another detail that almost no one mentions about Virgo. Virgo doesn't just identify the problem, they're already calculating the solution at the same time. Before you even finish describing the situation, something inside them has already mapped out possibilities, and this difference in speed creates a loneliness that only those born under the sign of Virgo understand. But then comes the question that changes everything. If this gift is so powerful when directed towards the world, towards projects, people, systems, what happens when it turns inward? It was while searching for answers to this question that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. This is not a book about superficial astrology. It's a tool built for those who, like you, have felt they carry something greater, but haven't yet found the map for it. For Virgo specifically, it addresses exactly this point. How to transform the analytical mechanism you've always used to serve the world into a compass that also serves you. How to stop using your greatest intelligence against yourself and start using it as direction. You are at a very specific point in your life right now. You've just recognized something within yourself that was probably always there, but never had a name. This recognition brings real discomfort because when you see the pattern, you can't pretend you didn't see it. And the Virgo tendency is to process this for weeks before acting. Don't do that now. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And before we continue, tell me in the comments, what was the moment in your life when you realized you could see something that others simply couldn't? I want to read about it. The same mechanism that gives Virgo the ability to see what no one else sees, to identify the error before it becomes a problem, to sense the misalignment before it becomes a crisis, is the same mechanism that, when turned inward, transforms the most precise gaze of the Zodiac into a blade turned against itself. Think about it. The life-saving scalpel in the surgeon's hands cuts deep in the wrong hands. The problem was never the scalpel, and the problem was never Virgo's mechanism. The problem is the direction. You've spent years, maybe decades, using your analytical skills to find flaws in situations, projects, people, plans. And at some point, that same perspective learned to find flaws in you too. Not because you're defective, but because that's what the mechanism does. It looks for what can be improved, and as long as there's no clear limit, it won't stop. Virgo's self-criticism is not weakness. It's power without direction. It's the surgeon operating without a map, without a protocol, without knowing when to stop. The wound and the gift have exactly the same address, and that changes everything about how you understand your relationship with yourself. Because there's a consequence that's rarely mentioned. When Virgo is at the peak of self-criticism, she's not being weak. She's using the same high-precision tool she uses to solve the world's most complex problems. The problem is that this time the object of analysis is herself. And there's no shield against the sharpest gaze, you know, when that gaze is pointed directly at you. But here's what needs to be said now, because nobody says it clearly enough. Virgo isn't ruled solely by intelligence. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, the messenger between worlds, the planet of language, of translation, of the bridge between what is complex and what can be understood. This means that Virgo doesn't just process, Virgo translates. She takes chaos and transforms it into order. She takes the incomprehensible and turns it into language that others can use. She takes the complexity that paralyzes others and returns it as clarity that moves. That is a service, a cosmic service, if you want to use that language. And it is a service that Virgo renders to the world with such absurd naturalness that she rarely realizes she's doing something extraordinary. You know, simultaneous translation? The kind where you listen in one language and speak in another without pausing, without time to think, while everyone around is still trying to understand the first sentence? That's it. That's exactly what Virgo does. In meetings, in relationships, in crises, in any situation where confusion reigns. Virgo translates chaos into clarity in real time, almost effortlessly, and then wonders why they're so exhausted. And now the question no one asks. If Virgo translates chaos into clarity for the entire world, who does it for her? Right here, in this question. This is where most Virgos get stuck for years, providing clarity for everyone, being everyone's safe haven, and never having a space that does the same for them. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose was built to be that space. For Virgo, it functions as the missing translator. It takes the complexity you carry inside, all the patterns you see but can't name, and returns it as clear direction, as purpose with form. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. Now, I need to tell you something about Virgo's power of discernment that goes beyond ordinary analysis, because there's a difference between seeing details and seeing patterns. Anyone with enough attention can notice a detail. Very few people can recognize the pattern before it's complete. Virgins do that. She doesn't just see what's there, she sees what's missing. She perceives the gap, the element that should exist but doesn't, the step that was skipped, the missing variable, and it is precisely this ability to identify what is not there that makes Virgo indispensable in any system that needs to truly function. Think of the classic detective, not the one who solves the case by the most obvious clue, the one who solves it by the absence of something that should be there, the witness who didn't mention the barking puppy, the window that was closed on a hot night, the detail that doesn't make sense because it's not where it should be. Virgo operates on this frequency all the time, in relationships, at work, in social situations. She senses when something doesn't add up before she can articulate why. This is a rare power, genuinely rare, and almost always underestimated, even by the Virgin herself, because the world rewards visibility, not precision. It rewards those who speak loudly, not those who see deeply. And Virgo, who naturally sees deeply, has learned over time that their type of intelligence doesn't receive applause. It receives requests. It receives demands. It receives, "Can you take a look at this?" from everyone who instinctively realized that Virgo will find what needs to be found. That, too, is power. But there is a cost when that power is never recognized as such, neither by the world nor by yourself. And here's something that needs to be said with the clarity this idea deserves. The fact that Virgo uses its power so naturally doesn't mean that the power is small. It means that it's completely integrated. A virtuoso musician doesn't think about their fingers. An experienced chef doesn't count steps. Virgo doesn't need to strain to see what others don't see. It simply sees. And precisely because it's so natural, it underestimates how extraordinary that is. The extraordinary that seems ordinary is the most dangerous extraordinary to underestimate. The discernment you possess, that ability to see what's missing, to identify the pattern before it's completed, is one of the rarest intelligences that exist. And it becomes dulled when it operates without direction, without a purpose worthy of it. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose will show you how this insight that sees what others don't can be used to build the life you want, not just to benefit everyone around you. It's the difference between using your intelligence as a service and using it as a vocation. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. But perhaps what is most underestimated in Virgo is not analytical intelligence, nor is it discernment, nor is it even the ability to translate. Perhaps what is most underestimated is simply resilience. Virgo works. When others freeze, Virgo keeps going. When others give up in the face of complexity, Virgo enters the complexity and begins to organize. When the system fails, Virgo doesn't collapse. It analyzes the failure and seeks the solution. This seems obvious when stated like this, but think about how much weight this represents in daily life. Consider the oak tree. It doesn't grow fast. It doesn't impress in the early seasons. It doesn't have the showy beauty of a spring flower, nor the dizzying growth of bamboo. But root by root, layer by layer, it builds something that stands when the storm comes. And when the storm comes, and it always does, the oak tree is still there, and the spring flowers are gone. Virgo is like the oak tree. Not in the sense of being slow or standing still, in the sense of building from the ground up, of investing in what sustains before investing in what appears to be superficial, of preferring deep roots to rapid growth that cannot withstand pressure. This silent resilience, this ability to keep functioning, to keep delivering, to remain reliable when everything around is falling apart, is a power that Virgo rarely acknowledges as power. She calls it obligation, responsibility. what anyone would do in this situation. No, that's not what just anyone would do. That's what Virgo does. And there's a huge difference. There's something about this resilience that goes beyond simply continuing. Virgo doesn't just continue, it continues with quality. It doesn't allow itself to deliver half-heartedly just because the situation is difficult. The internal standard doesn't lower because the environment has become turbulent. This is rare in a way that most people don't realize, because those who don't naturally possess this standard can't imagine what it's like to carry it. It's like trying to explain to someone who has never seen the ocean what it feels like to be in the middle of it. That resilience you possess, that ability to keep going when it would be easier to stop, was built over years of commitment to real excellence, not just the appearance of excellence. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign towards a life of purpose recognizes this strength in Virgo and returns what has always been yours, the clarity of where this resistance should point. Carrying this level of commitment without direction is exhaustion. With direction, it is transformation. You don't need more strength, you need the map. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. And so we come to what is perhaps the most important point of everything that has been said here. There's a question that Virgo has carried for a long time, even without having the words for it. And the question goes something like this. Why, with everything I see, with everything I process, with everything I give, do I still feel like I'm not enough? The answer is simple and disturbing. Because the criteria you use to evaluate yourself are not human. It's impossible. You measure yourself by the standard that your own intelligence can imagine, and your intelligence can always imagine a little more than you are today. That's not humility. It's a mathematical trap. You will always compare yourself to a version of yourself that doesn't yet exist. But here's what astrology, psychology, and human experience converge on. The most powerful sign of the zodiac isn't the one with the most brute strength. It's not the one that makes the most noise. It's not the one that occupies the most space. The most powerful sign is the one that can see the truth when everyone else is still looking at the surface. And that has always been the case, is Virgo. The medieval alchemist didn't create gold out of nothing. He recognized gold where others only saw ordinary stone. He had a gaze that pierced through appearances and reached the essence. Exactly what Virgo does. Exactly what you do every time you enter a situation and immediately see what's working, what isn't, what can be improved, what needs attention. This is not a burden. This is a mission. Being a Virgo is not a condition to be managed. It's not a set of traits that need to be controlled for you to function better in the world. It's a way of perceiving the world that the world needs, even when the world doesn't know how to name what it's asking for when it asks you for help. What changes when you finally truly understand this is not what you see. You already see it, you always have. What changes is what you do with what you see. It's whether you use that vision to build the life you imagine or just to fix the lives others have. Virgo possesses the rarest power that exists, the power to see clearly in a world shrouded in fog, the power to find truth where others find only convenient versions of the truth, the power to transform, not through force, but through precision. And that power has always been yours. From the very beginning, you just needed to stop long enough to look in the right direction. That's no small thing you carry. It never was. The world will sometimes tell you that you're too much, too critical, too demanding, too detail-oriented. And you'll have to learn over time that too much is the word people use when they encounter something they can't match. It's not a flaw of yours. It's a difference in caliber. Virgo didn't come into the world to be convenient. It came to be precise, to be true, to be that fixed point in a constantly moving universe where things still make sense, still have order, can still be understood. And this ability, to create clarity where there is confusion, to create order where there is chaos, to create meaning where there is noise, is a gift that few signs possess and that the world, even without knowing how to name it, has always needed. There's a strange beauty in being a Virgo, a beauty that isn't flashy or obvious. It's the beauty of someone who builds solid foundations while others are preoccupied with decoration. The beauty of someone who solves the real problem while others are still debating what the problem is. The beauty of someone who stays, who sustains, who is there when chaos reigns and someone needs a mind that still works. You are a Virgo, and that has never been a limitation. It has always been from the beginning a way of seeing the world that the world needs, even when you haven't yet learned to appreciate it.